Well, here we go again. This is Mayor Tom O'Leary reporting in on Monday night. I've got a busy week of big events, fun events, let's put it that way. It's sort of a little bit anticlimactic, but they're going to cut a ribbon, have a grand opening at Bueller's 9 o'clock on Wednesday. So I'm like a kid waiting for vacation or waiting for COVID to, I guess kids today waiting to go back because of COVID. But in any case, like a kid, I'm anxious to be part of that on Wednesday and encourage people to continue to go out there. I want to talk about a couple things that I know I read this morning before dawn in the Inquirer on their electronic page. An article about Ohio Department of Natural Resource, ODNR's Nature Work Grant announcement approval. And it did include about $6,500 for the city of Galion. It's less than we're used to getting. They I spent some time on the phone. I know Matt spent some time on the phone with the people at ODNR trying to understand better why a trail project, another part of the county, scored so much more, earned so much larger grant than we did. We had a little bit of time to think through whether we were going to accept this smaller amount, and because the project is what I consider an important project for having a successful long-term operation of the dog park at Kobe Park, we decided to go ahead and accept that grant. And there's terms and conditions, none of which I think will be onerous. I mean that Kobe Park's been a city park for, I believe, at least 30 years. It's one of the requirements that we keep the use of the facility, the use of the recreation area as a park for I believe 15 years. But in any case, that's about the only restriction. We're going to locate it real close to existing sewer line. Water's going to be a little bit of a run from where the water's at, as I understand the subsurface utilities. In any case, the facility, some people have commented over the last few months about how they didn't like these prefabbed these prefab bathrooms. When you look at the timeline from order to delivery, in between ordering these through state purchasing and having if they wouldn't be stick built, but having a block building built with a separate set of plans that have to be approved by the state. It's just no comparison. Before we made this repeated commitment to replacing our old bathrooms with this new prefab approach, not entirely new, but we'll call it new, we costed it out and looked at the difference between having a similar building built, kind of replacing the buildings that we've removed now, and going with this route. And it's there's enough moving parts to get one of these delivered and quickly into service that not to have to go through the design. The buildings that we buy come with a set of state approved plans, so that allows us to move a lot more quickly through the approval process. And what's been the biggest snag is something you hear everyone talking about, complaining about, working on, trying to solve, and that's the delivery of the cement building or concrete building. So I believe this one I've been talking about for a second. We have that on order, and we're probably standing in line with a lot of other places. Early next year, I believe, at this point, when the fence is up and the dog park is in operation, My expectation is that we'll have to have a porta pot out there, and but soon into 22, really think that that new bathroom will be out there. It'll be a nice improvement. We're really on a kind of one step at a time in the reuse of Kobe Park. So that'll, I think, be an important step. And it's nice to, we'd like to have gotten the 75% of the project costs as we have in some other years through Nature Works. But on the other hand, $6,500 is helps us along the way. What our plan is then to use $25,000 to $30,000 in next year's parks budget as a capital improvement in what we call around here in budget slang Fund 204. So anyway, that was an announcement today. We've been kind of waiting for the governor and the department to make public what we've been informed of informally. So we'll kind of go from there. I would just as a quick aside before I come back to one other parks, was out north of town today, out in the area out near the construction, the highway construction. You can begin to see some of the subsurface, the drainage pipes that have been ordered and now delivered. So depending on where we buy our new bathroom, it's kind of funny that they're probably in a long production line in the same production facility, but time will tell. But that project, the highway projects, I don't expect to see a lot of traffic issues, maybe as certain structures are put into the ground on the side, that there'll be a lane taken while they have some of their equipment out there. But really don't see the traffic congestion and the need for the extra pavement to come into play until early next year. So that's enough on 598. Matt and I were talking a little bit before we came on air about how much discussion there's been, and I think our collective decision was probably not a lot, definitely not enough, about looking at the delivery of Freeze recreational projects. I'm not going to talk about the Freeze Center. I'm going to talk about most of what we've been able to fund and improvements we've been able to be part of here in the city. I think people who've seen the projects or followed it just a little bit have come to know, or that maybe this will confirm their sense of how the projects go. We, the city, get notification in about April or March of the estimated amount of our share, the distribution to the city according to the probate document and the will. And at that point, there's a lag between the time that money, we get a letter letting us know what it is, and when it's actually received into the city. We're going to work a little bit with the new auditor on hopefully being able to start projects based on the letter and not have to wait until the checks in the bank. So that's been an issue. It's an issue, a lag time of 3 months. That will tighten the process, but I don't think it's really going to correct what I'm going to be discussing with council as we get the budget together and as this process unfolds in 22. And that is to have projects, really not attempt to get projects to market until October, maybe early November, and sell the projects late in the year with the hope of having them start right up the succeeding year. So this might be a good year to seriously consider the rescheduling of the whole program, because we have a number of projects that, because of supply chain issues, have not been able to be delivered this year. So, what we're going to see in 22 is literally a handful of freeze-funded park-related projects that will be constructed in, we hope, the first half of, or through the middle of the summer, if you will, the first couple quarters of 22. If we delay the money that we'll have available to us in early 22, if we delay those projects, select them and get them ready to hit the market in 23, that would be a way of synchronizing the construction schedule, the design schedule, and this early in the year notification from the foundation. So I'm not sure how good of a job I've done explaining the idea, but it would be to try to shift projects instead of, like a kid that can't wait to see what they got for Christmas, and they're looking through everything, trying to, instead of being so anxious to get projects started in the early part of the year, maybe my thoughts are, if we plan another 5 or 6 months and line those up, we'll have a more orderly delivery of the project, and likely sell these projects to the market in a better time of the year, instead of right into the park's equipment rush, into the park maintenance stampede that goes on every year. As every city, every jurisdiction, everybody who's got a park area puts pressure on the market. Our plan would be to sell it late in the year and have the projects be built by various contractors early that next year. So anyways, don't want to over talk it. But it is a matter of about $500,000 a year. We want to spend it in an orderly fashion, and we also want to sell the projects when one can get the best bids. So anyway, that's what we got going. That may happen by circumstance here in a few weeks as we try to get bids on the extension, the bike path extension. So stay tuned, keep posted. Whenever I've been involved in a complex project where there's a lot of moving parts, and 1 or 2 parts of that overall project are going to be stinkers, going to be difficult to work out. If you've ever gone through that, I've been through it a handful of times, maybe more than that. That's what the working out the details of the 22 budget is like, or is, in that really surprisingly and pleasantly surprising, all of our general fund, back up a little bit, income tax fund funded departments and agencies, those budgets look pretty good. I don't think, as it usually is, that every chief or every department head that is funded out of income tax revenue is going to have a great big grin on their face, but I think everyone will be in agreement that this is a good way to manage those multi-million-dollar departments, police, fire in particular, and set those departments up so that we aren't heading off a budgetary cliff as the city turns the corner and looks at 23. So in that respect, we're going to have some healthy balances in a lot of those funds that I'm making reference to. Police, fire, parks, the city hall operation, any number of those things. The health department, I think their request, I don't expect to hear many questions or much resistance to what they're asking to run next year. However, as I mentioned a couple of weeks, in fact, I've been talking about it, seems like for too long. We are really going to be tight in the water utilities. The water fund, where the filtration plant and distribution system is funded out of, and the sewer side, where the collection system and the wastewater treatment plant are funded. We're looking at some pretty significant regulatory mandates or requirements that we need to fix. That'd be mostly on the water side. And on the sewer side, we've got some capital improvements that we're going to have, the city's going to have to make some decisions about how we modernize, how we fix the now, hate to say it, but getting close to 40-year-old wastewater treatment plant. And so, you know, we're staring at some pretty significant costs. And so the discussion about how to fund those capital improvements, and you know, how to raise the money to be able to operate them. So that seems like a broken record on that. But every time you come back to it, you look at the budget. There's a lot of new roles that the mayor's office, in particular the service director, has taken on as the auditor's operation works on getting 21 finished up and getting caught up on some things. So we're taking on some roles that have really been performed by them. I think it's the right thing to do. What I'm making reference to is we're calculating the numbers for the budget and the fringe benefits in the operating department's budget. That had since I've become mayor, really been the domain of one of the staffers in the auditor's office. So we're estimating payroll, estimating insurance the best that we can, and assigning those costs to the correct funds. And then we're also, I think over the next week or so, that Auditor-elect Satterfield, myself, some other people will sit down and try to come to a mutual agreement on what's a real important part of the auditor's obligations and function, and that is the estimating of revenue for the spending plan that council will consider and ultimately will work out. So seems like the budget is it is a complex operation. I think it scales up off at about 35 million or thereabouts on the annual budget. Now you want to remember that 11-12 million of that is revenue from the electric distribution, or our retail sale of electric. But anyways, it's still a pretty big operation, and there's a lot of moving parts. The biggest snag, and where I expect any or a large number of the questions to come up at Wednesday night's committee of the whole meeting, will revolve around how we're going to fund the operation of water and sewer, as well as make the capital improvements that the state's requiring and that we know we need to make. So that's about it. I think that really, as far as city business, Wednesday night's the big activity. We've got certainly that ribbon cutting. I got an invitation, so I'm allowed to go. And then Wednesday night we'll have what generally, or I hate to say traditionally, but historically, how's that? Does that sound more important? Each year it's a long meeting, and I'll do my best not to get into too much detail, but where there are some changes among funds, try to point out why one year looks a little bit different than the this year, and I think that particularly applies on how we're going to divide up the costs between the two income tax safety force levies, which department personnel are going to be funded out of which one of those two. We call them 103 and 104. Those are just code numbers, but they're the oh gosh, what I want to say, the 0.5% and the 0.39% that were voted back in the early days of the city's recovery. So anyway, when it comes to budgets, I'm about as I can be as boring as anyone. I find it fascinating how we can continue to move along and fund the operation. Things look pretty good, but water and sewer. I read something the other day. A guy was saying we had the highest water and sewer rates in the Midwest. Like, man, I don't know what to do with that kind of thing, except celebrate it's a free country, and as long as it's not too malicious, you can say just about what you want. So, heck, I do. I mean, I benefit from that. So, anyway, don't want to go on too much longer. What do we have out there in the on the minds of Galleonites?
I don't have any questions so far. If anybody has anything, please submit it in the comments.
All right. Can we talk about? Anything else we can talk about?
You got Come Home to Galleon events this Saturday.
Hey, that's a good idea. If you don't know about that, that's pretty much all day. Breakfast with Santa, couple 3 sessions over at the Railroad Pavilion. I believe the parade, all of this Christmas tree lighting, all of this to try to promote doing business and the fellowship that you can have in the, by going uptown and being uptown through that day. So I haven't looked ahead to the weather. I know one thing, I won't be watching any football. And I feel like I've got a sentence as a Browns fan. I got 3 more weeks. I got to go, or not 3 more. Gosh, like 6 more weeks of that I've got to endure. So, anyways, yep. Come Home to Galleon is coming up, and as in the past, good times had by all. So be up there. You have a good time. I don't know. They in the past they've had homemade food up there for sale or for donation. I'm not sure if that's part of it or not. So
I haven't heard.
Yep. We just put up the banners and supply some of the rolling stock for a good old small town parade. So, anyway. Anything else?
No, nothing.
Okay. Issue 1 this Friday is the if you will, the big annual meeting. It's the Maldi County Integrating Committee is the term that is has always been used to describe this group, and it's fairly well organized for a 7 or 8 county scramble for funds. So we'll see how we do. Our project is continuing that storm sewer projects going out the east side of town. Another project that's got stiffed last year, and hell, I didn't realize it was as important to Galleon area when I was at the meeting. I could have got up and thrown a fit or gone on a rant or a rave. But anyways, it has to do with paving Brant Road, East Brant Road. So from 598 to Market Street, over to Fairview at least. And somehow or the other, I can't remember the detail. All I can remember is looking at the other people from Crawford County, like, what the hell just happened to us? So I know that we're going to put that boxer back in the ring and see if it can fight its way into the winner's circle. So anyways, that's an interesting meeting. Some dynamics, and over the years that have been commissioners and mayors and trustees and engineers that have come and gone, and many years I've been associated with it. So it's I think they're getting together so we can all have a super spreader event, but maybe it's Zoom, I'm not sure. But our goal is to get that storm sewer project funded, and probably countywide, the biggest project is some financing assistance that Village of Crestline is hoping to line up so they can get their major rebuild of their sewer plant one step closer. So we'll be cheering. We'll put away our leather sweaters for that one. Got any questions?
Yeah, I did have a question come in from Shirley. She
Yeah.
asked, did we get security cameras in all of the parks yet?
No, not yet. And what we're working on are two ends of that, Shirley, and we'll have a couple of the city will have a couple of projects to propose in next year's freeze funding. One of them is going to be a phased but major enhancement, expansion of security cameras. Um, and that I think people understand. It's the getting the evidence of vandalism or any other kind of misbehavior. The other half of it is making sure that the police department, who will likely respond, have equipment that works as state of the art as possible. So we're looking at some things in the dispatching area that would improve their ability to handle those images, monitor that activity, and upgrading the radios and cameras that our officers have. All of that can't be done at the same time, but there are kind of two halves to the problem. We need quick observation of something happening, not 8 hours later when we go in there to clean up, or, do a daily cleanup at the park and we see X, Y, or Z has happened. So we're going to work on that part of it, but limited to Heisey Park right now, and we get a pretty good sweep. Is not the right word, is it? We get a pretty good view of Heisey Park, and so anyways, there's the answer, Shirley. And I'm anxious to see, as far as freeze funds go, what we're entitled to. My guess is, unless somebody comes up with a super creative project, that we'll probably not spend all of the money that we're entitled to, if that's the right word, and just roll that over into the fund. But certainly any good project. If Rich Henry, a good friend of ours, a friend of the office, hears me say that, he'll say, well, wait a second, we've got the footbridge out at the reservoirs. So I think that's consistent with trying to slow these projects down a little bit and get some that are, get a more orderly, more cost-effective design and bidding of the projects. So. What else we got?
That is all I had.
All right, let me think. Going to be a hectic next 30 days or so. I do believe that we'll be on schedule to have a budget passed, in spite of the hiccups or the kinks that have to be worked out in the water and sewer fund. And really is going to be important here at City Hall for the auditor's office, the mayor's office, to really work to finish up 21 and get bookkeeping for 22 up and running. So keep a close eye on that. I saw a draft list, I guess I'd describe it, of council committees. I'm not sure if there's, I'm sure President Watt will listen to any kind of questions that people have about it, but it will be as it is every 2 years, quite honestly. It'll be interesting, some different council dynamics, and so I got to be honest with you. I'm looking forward to getting started next year and trying to get forward momentum going. It seems, from my perspective, that since we got out of fiscal emergency, we've slackened the pace a little bit, and it's my view that we really have to keep working at trying to keep going on the growth pattern. I know it's kind of a sports cliche, but if you're not getting better, you're likely getting worse, and so we've got to keep moving on that improvement line, and get some additional growth in the business side, the employment side. But I think what we'll see over this next year or two is some real results in improving housing, amount of new housing, and we'll see what that does to actually literally growing the communities.